Okay, so chapter 13. So I am going to do the beginning of this. The other half I already actually have recorded from a Cyber Day, snow day, or something in years past. So I will write up directions on how to find all this stuff and put it all together for you guys. But this, I'm going to try and just do this one in one 15-minute recording because I'm only going to go up to like here when I start talking about Daniel Webster. So this is the Mexican-American War. So a house divided comes from something actually that Lincoln had said, that a house divided cannot stand upon itself. So meaning we have to either be all slave or all free. We can't survive this way. So this, and then this is getting us closer to the start of the Civil War. Actually starts in 1861 after the election of 1860. The Southern states had said if a Southern or if a Republican is elected, we will secede from the Union. And Lincoln is a Republican, and he is elected in 1860. And so they do start to secede after the election. By the time the war starts, it's 1861. So, and again, something to know is that Lincoln was not like a staunch abolitionist in the beginning. It wasn't like he said, oh, we have to be all free. He just said we have to preserve the Union and decide one way or another. Now, in the end, he is abolitionist. He emancipates the slaves, and then he signs the 13th Amendment. He pushes for the 13th Amendment, which is the abolition of slavery. So it turns out that way. But in the beginning, politically, that wasn't his message. His message was we need to be unified and not let the Union fall apart over this issue. Okay. All right. So let's see. So what this chapter is about is the Mexican-American War. And I think I showed you guys, I'm going to show you the map. I showed you this, a similar map before where, John Quincy Adams, when he was Secretary of State under Monroe, they shored up some of the borders here, and they, here this was the Adams-Onis Treaty, told us what this line was, but this green here is all owned by Mexico, so even Texas. So we need to get this land back, or not get it back, but get it. The Manifest Destiny, the pro-annexation type people think they want this land. So we're going to talk about this war that occurs. Actually, this line here, this blue line, is the Mormon Trail. This is the Mormons we talked about before that traveled from Illinois to Utah, right? And then the Oregon Trail, people traveling west across the Oregon Trail. There's also the Santa Fe Trail that comes through here. So there's still Manifest Destiny. There's still a lot of westward expansion. Once we do get all this land, we will, not to give away the ending, but we win the war and we get all this land, and people will start heading all the way west. Okay, so the initially west was Ohio, right, across the Appalachian Mountains, and then it was Trans-Mississippi, and now we're going all the way to California, we're going to see. Okay, so again, still talking about Manifest Destiny, and the reason this painting is here is this painting wasn't done until the 1870s, but the concept was born. We already studied this. The concept was born around 1840. Okay. So after we talked about Harrison. So President Harrison died after 3 weeks because he caught pneumonia, giving a really long inaugural speech. Then John Tyler was his vice president, who he said was a Democrat in Whigs clothing. And after Harrison died, he proved to be difficult for the Whigs to manipulate and really thought more like a Democrat. And right before literally right before his term is up, he ends up annexing Texas. So what had happened with Texas is Texas, I'll show you the map again here. Texas was part of Mexico. They had a revolt and declared their independence from Mexico. So they were just like the Republic of Texas, just like hanging out there by themselves. And we'll see that the people of the Mexican government gave a huge tract of land to a family, the Austin family, as in Austin, Texas. The Austin family in Texas, who were American, and said, try to recruit more Americans to come here. So that's what they did. So in the end, we're going to come back to this one. Let's go. I don't know why this goes in this order. where's that thing about Mexico? Oh, here it is. Sorry. So okay. So the Austin family gets this tract of land from Mexico, and the Mexican government encourages them to recruit Americans to come live in Texas and farm. It would be good, for the economy and everything. But there were a lot of stipulations. So, if you are an American living in one of these states and you're going to come over into Texas, if you have slaves here, you're going to bring them with you. And one of the stipulations was no slaves. We don't want slavery. Um, we want you to practice Catholicism because the Mexicans were Catholic, and we want you to assimilate to our ways. So the Americans, when they were over here, they were like, sure, we'll do that for some cheap land and an opportunity. We'll do that. And guess what they do when they get there? They bring their slaves, they don't practice Catholicism, and they don't assimilate into Mexican ways. So that doesn't really work out, and it leads to a lot of friction. And there were actually Mexican police type people on horseback all over trying to enforce this, and the Americans, sorry, became very resentful toward the Mexican government. So there's a lot of tension going on in Texas. They're not part of America. Every president, so the annexation of Texas was a thing. Every election, every president since 1820, when the 1820s, when Texas started doing this, and they declared their independence from Mexico, and they were like the Republic of Texas. Every president was like, I'm not annexing Texas, because if they did, it would upset the balance that was created by the Missouri Compromise. So everybody avoided it like the plague. They didn't want anything to do with it. Even Jackson was like, I don't think I want to do that. Nobody annexed it until John Tyler. So John Tyler, while he was president, literally right before he left office, he signed off to annex Texas. So he knew that James Polk would be for it. James Polk was totally into Manifest Destiny. He was known as Mr. Annexation, Mr. Manifest Destiny, Mr. 5440 or Fight, which 5440 or Fight is, if you remember way back, we signed an agreement for the border to be of the United States to be 5440. Remember, we said the Russians were creeping down, the Russo-American agreement, and then we had joint occupation of this area with the British with the Anglo-American agreement. So we had the border set up here, and people are still creeping down. The British are creeping down. And James Polk is like, nope, 5440. I think they wanted it to be, the British wanted it to be at the 49th parallel. And we said, no, 5440 or fight, meaning we'll go to war over it. So James Polk that's probably the only thing he's really known for. There are a string of kind of forgettable presidents between Jackson and Lincoln. They're kind of like, eh. And if you can remember one thing about each one, that's good. For Polk, it's Manifest Destiny. He wanted to extend the borders of the United States. He wanted war with Mexico to get that land back. He is a Democrat. And like, again, that John Tyler, being a Whig, doing that before he left, that wasn't a Whig-like thing to do. That was a Democrat-like thing to do, to want expansion in the West and not be afraid of, whether or not the slavery issue will come up. He didn't care. He does annex it literally right before he walks out the door. And then he's like, it'll be an issue for Polk. I'm done. So he annexed Texas, and then his time was up. Okay. Let me just see what this says. Oh, and this, yeah, and poor Henry Clay ran in this election of 1844, and he didn't win because of the third party. James Birney ran and took some votes away that Whig would have gotten with this Liberty Party that crept up, I should say, and he took votes from New York. Those New Yorkers probably normally would have voted for the Whigs, so Henry Clay did not win, and James Polk won. Okay, so the annexation of Texas was done right before he came in. Okay, and Polk, oh yeah, Polk was a slaveholder who they say his plantations were horrible, the way he treated his slaves. So for him, he probably didn't care if the Texas does become a slave state. Okay. All right. San Antonio. Okay. So the road to war. So I will say this, girls, about Polk. Okay. He has an agenda of things he's going to do. Where's my recorder? Is this thing not recording? Oh God. Oh no, it is. Sorry. I just had a panic attack there for a second. So he does have an agenda and he does what he says he's going to do. Okay. So Polk says, I'm going to reduce the tariff. He reduces the tariff. He reestablishes the independent treasury. He does that. He settles the Oregon dispute, which is the border, the 5440 border. He brings California into the United States. And then he claims, okay, so we do have a war with Mexico, and he does he sends some people to try and buy California from Santa Anna, who's the leader of Mexico, and it doesn't work out. So he's like, "Dang it, what can we do? We're going to go to war." So what he does, the way the war starts is a little bit sketchy for some people, especially Lincoln, who's a member of the House of Representatives at the time. So um, uh, Polk asks Congress for a declaration of war because he claims that American blood was shed on American soil. Now, is Texas, where the blood was shed was somewhere in Texas, is that really America? And are those people American? So that was the question. So the whole thing causes some friction in Congress, and the people who are not Democrats are questioning this. And Lincoln actually says he wants to know. It's called the spot resolution. He says, "I want to know the spot where the blood was shed," because he does not think it's American soil. He doesn't think it's our problem, and that we should have declared war on Mexico. And Thoreau, the transcendentalist, transcendentalism is still up and running. They're very peaceful people. They don't want war. People are questioning and criticizing Polk, who's very pro-war. Um, so this is kind of like Lincoln making a name for himself. In for the first time, he's a young man, member of the House from Illinois, very unknown really, and he really questions this, and this is how he kind of comes onto the scene and makes a name for himself. So Polk is like, who are you to question me? But he had a valid question. Okay, so the Mexican-American War breaks out. We declare war on Mexico. There's lots of fighting that takes place. Um, probably the most famous battle is the Battle of the Alamo, where a lot of that's important to Texas because a lot of Texan people died there. But in the end, we win. Californios are the indigenous people out in California. What ends the war is the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And basically, the conditions were it ceded Texas, so that whole area, and all the way over, all the way west to California. We do, even though we won the war, we do end up paying them $15 million. And people were concerned now what to do with all this land in the West. Will it become slave? Okay. So this is all the stuff we won. Okay, and those are where the battles were. Okay. So once people start heading out west, I feel like I had something else on the what do you call it? Oh, good, yeah. So the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo does call for. Let me see. I thought I had a better organizer on that, but maybe I don't. I only have a minute. Let's see. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. I guess that's it. Okay, so anyway, then the gold rush, you probably learned about that when you were in grade school, but that makes people head west and not a lot of people really found gold. It was kind of, um, people made more money servicing the people looking for gold than actually people made for gold. That's where like Levi Strauss, the guy with the jeans, invents those pants for people who are panning for gold because they needed durable pants. So people opening restaurants, people opening services to serve the people out there are going to make more money than people actually digging for gold. So what it does is it populates the area. People rush out there thinking they're going to get rich with gold, but what they do is they settle there. So all these towns crop up. Okay. Here's some miners. Okay, and then the other